This is the Organizational Health Advantage podcast with Keith Hadley and James Felton, principal consultants at Table Group. They're in the business of coaching leaders to build strategic focus and cultural alignment that leads to amazing results. This podcast is for leaders who are looking to increase productivity and morale while decreasing politics, confusion, and unwanted turnover. Welcome to the Org Health Advantage.
Welcome to the Org Health Advantage podcast. We started this podcast to deconstruct leadership principles within different organizations and industries and share them with you. I'm excited about today's guest, Tim Leman, the chairman and CEO of Gibson in South Bend, Indiana. Gibson provides employee benefits as well as business and personal insurance. In addition to leading Gibson, Tim is on the board of directors for Center Bank, Southwest Michigan First, and Intersure. He is also involved with YPO and is the author of a book called Revolution: Turn Crisis into Clarity and Ignite Growth. The foreword was written by my CEO, Patrick Lancioni. Tim is really involved as a leader and understands what it takes to build a smart and healthy organization. He believes in the discipline of having a leadership model to follow and the ROI that comes from that discipline. So without further delay, let's jump into my conversation with Tim Leman. Tim, thanks for joining.
Hey, James, thanks for having me on, man.
I'm really excited because I've gotten to know you through a mutual friend. And while we've had some fun together, I've also gotten to learn just how serious you are about leadership and driving great cultures in your company. And and I follow you on the social medias and the blog, and you have a book as well. And so I just think this is going to be a great conversation. So thanks for joining.
Yeah, well, Pat and the Table Group and all that's always been kind of one of those from the very beginning, 20 some years ago, when I started trying to think about being a better leader or what that meant. I think actually 5 Dysfunctions of a Team was probably the first leadership book I ever read. So I'm kind of I don't know if it's awkward, a fanboy, I guess, of Pat Lancioni. I don't know if he has many of those, but I'll sign up to be one, I guess.
Yeah, so he does. We call them table groupies. No, just kidding. But yeah, Pat, that was the first. 5 Dysfunctions of a Team was the first book that I read of his, and it just really resonated with me. And so it's really cool that it did with you as well. And for me, it was like, oh my gosh, this is like kind of a leadership Bible. Like I can take this and run with it, and it's easy to apply. Is that how you saw it as well?
Yeah, I did. I love just how he broke it down into a story too, because I think previously some of the leadership books, a lot of them out there could get kind of long and very textbook sort of feel to it. And so to tell a story, you could relate to the characters in there and either see yourself in some of them or the people around you. And I think it made it a lot easier to digest. And then, I grew up in Indiana and went to school there. And so he says it in a way too that was simple enough I could even understand it and put it to work.
Yeah, I have another client who was on a podcast recently, and he said he just loved Pat's books because he could pick one up in an airport and read it on the plane and be done by the time he landed.
Yeah. And, 3-4 hours and that's it.
Yeah. So with that, like, talk to me again. I feel like you so value your place as a leader, So talk to me just about your thoughts on leadership and the role you play and who you're trying to groom as leaders. And just talk to me about that piece of it, because I think so many leaders that I come across don't necessarily take on that responsibility to lead and make people better. It's more around leading around strategy only. And so you seem to take that and more. So talk to me about that.
Thanks, James, on that. Yeah, it's something I think about all the time. And I mean, I enjoy it and I enjoy learning and trying to get better at it. I came up in the insurance business in the sales side of things. And so I was a sales jockey out there, and a lot of those skills really served me well and positioned me to persuade and get people behind me and so on. And that worked really, really well for a long time. When I joined Gibson, and I've been here about 15 years now, it's that classic, all those things that got you there aren't the things you need to stay in place. And I didn't understand all of that. I probably didn't know myself so well and appreciate what I do well. Even down to, I was always really, really good in sales. I tended to be on the top of the leaderboard always. But I didn't know what fueled all of that. And a couple of things kind of came out of that. I learned that more than the sale, I started really enjoying it when multiple salespeople, we were together and we had like a team victory, real team victory kind of thing. And seeing others around me win and succeed started making me kind of shift more into a player coach role.
Nice.
But again, I didn't appreciate those nuances. And when I got to Gibson and I was about a year or so into it, I was named president and became an owner in the company and so on. They were Gibson at the time. They were really big on 360 reviews, and it was brutal because they did everybody and their brother got to have anonymous stone throwing available. And I had never in my life received such bad feedback on that. And there was plenty of good stuff, but, I focused on the other part, but just brutal about, double standards and treat salespeople differently and don't care about me. And that was actually like gut wrenching because, I think I'm a pretty nice guy and I care about people a lot. And so to hear others talking about me that way when they felt safe to do so was just awful. And at first I just decided that they were idiots and, we'll teach them a thing or two. And my predecessor here really did a great job of helping me understand it and see it for what it is. And he's like, you can win the battle all day long because you're better, smarter, quicker, faster. And frankly, you're right in most of these situations, but so then what? What are you going to be president of nobody? So he's like, it's something you're going to have to figure out and decide if you really want this or not. And it's on you to figure it out. You're the adult here. So act like it. Yes, sir. But the other thing that he helped me really explore and actually he gave me one of Pat's books, Silos and Turf Wars, and to read, and I'd kind of ignored it, and then I read it some more, and it just kind of hit me. And what I realized, James, was in my sales guy roles, I'd ride around in the car with one of the client service people, 30 minutes to the meeting and 30 minutes back or whatever. And that was when I could be me and they could experience me and I could ask them. And I was genuinely interested, like, oh yeah, so how's your kid doing with baseball? And what's going on with, the drama team? And we had a great time. And so then all those moments when I was pressing and pushing and asking for more, I had built up a lot of chips, I think, and they knew me. When I got here, I didn't have any of that history with anybody. I was just anointed in the role, and I didn't have those moments in time with everybody. And so that was where the disconnect was occurring. So really long answer all the way around to I had to like kind of rebuild myself that way to be the kind of leader I needed to be and to really understand what it's like to make sure everybody else is succeeding and winning. And it's tough too, though, because I didn't want to trample some of my strengths, which in that those sales strengths, some of them are, really great and can do so many positive things, but when not used appropriately or not having all the background, the context, the engagement, they're kind of horrible.
Yeah.
In some ways.
That is such a great story because it reminds me, I got to meet a guy named Craig Weatherup out here in Scottsdale and spend some time with him. Craig was a former CEO of Pepsi. And he wintered out here in Scottsdale and would summer out in New York, but just, really through church and I got to meet him and spend time with him. And he's on the board of Starbucks now. And wow. So we would talk about leadership, and it was such a great opportunity. And I once asked him, like, what were the things that you focused on, as a leader of such a big organization? And he said he felt like he had 3 jobs, and you kind of spoke to it. So it's just it reminded me of the story that his 3 jobs were develop strategy. Okay, makes sense. Implement strategy. Okay, also makes sense. And then he said, and James, the third one was the most important, but the hardest. And it was to build followership. I was like, oh my gosh, tell me about that. And he's like, sometimes you have to get people to follow you even when they don't agree with you. And he would do that by some of the things you talked about. Like when he would go and visit plants, he would stop and talk to a forklift driver for half an hour and just talk to them about his family and what's going well at the plant. And, or he would also every summer he would go out and drive the delivery trucks with the driver and spend the whole day and meet the clients, and just, again, getting to know the people within the company at really lower levels, and to build that followership and to understand what they were going through. And
James, did he ever talk about in those conversations though or he comes across as being authentic though, and really wanting to know, or how important that was, not just for show?
Oh yeah, it wasn't getting to know him. It wasn't for show at all. It was literally I want to get to know what's going on at the plants at the lowest levels. I want to know what it's like to be a driver. And he told a story of he did this. He went to drive the truck in Vegas. And of course, Vegas is Vegas, and he goes they go to deliver stuff to a strip joint, and the GM is like, "Hey, I've got a problem with the gun over at the bar over there." And so he goes and the CEO of Pepsi goes and tries to figure out the squirt gun that's, dispensing Pepsi and other stuff. And it some of the springs fall out because he doesn't know what he's doing. And so he's got to go through the muck of the strip joint bar to he's like, I wanted to know what was going on. That was the type of person he was. He wasn't just going to sit up in, some ivory tower. He wanted to go throughout the organization and learn everything he could about it and hear from the people up and down the organization.
Well, James, it's interesting, those 3 things that you mentioned that he talked about, developing the strategy, implementing it, and then the building followership. And, the developing strategy, I think, is a lot of fun for a lot of people. Implementing it is just really, really hard work. And then that can't happen without the followership. But that's also, I think, some of the most fun I have in my role is that spending time, and haven't really thought about it exactly like that of building followership, but it's a great way to think about it. It's fun being out on the front lines and talking with people. I love visiting our offices and grabbing lunch with everybody and just seeing how they're doing, and in the middle of getting some of the family tidbits and the personal stuff. And you got to listen carefully, and you got to, I think, really evaluate body language and look for those little nuanced shifts or differences, because they still don't always tell you everything that you would like to know.
Right.
But you can kind of get a flavor for the tone that they take, or it's dampened just a little bit. And that tells you that's an area to look into, something's not perfectly working in that area. But I have a ton of fun doing that now. And some of that too is about getting all the roles, I think, squared away internally, and knowing what you're good at and what you're not, and having the right, the right partners on leadership teams and all that. And something I had a chance to see you in person and talk about the Working Genius stuff that the Table Group's doing, and it's been really neat. We've been rolling that out with our team, and we've spent a lot of time over the years. We use Colby pretty religiously and have for 4 or 5 years. So we talk a lot about that, but the Working Genius thing has been neat. It's given some extra flavor and nuance again to everything. And it's it's so interesting, I'm a galvanizer. It's one of my strengths. And it's I kind of knew that, and I guess it's been on my report cards in other ways since 3rd grade and my parents, but just to think about you know what, I do that well. It never feels like work. I love it. I'm an evangelist anyway, and it's always authentic and real. I can't help myself. It's when I find something I think really works, I want to tell all my friends about it. I want to say, hey, this podcast is great, or this book is awesome, or this service is fantastic. And and tell them how it's going to help fix it and help and save them this, that, and the other. And so I've been able to really long term now be in that kind of a role at Gibson now, where I get to spend most of my time doing the stuff that I'm best at. And man, what a difference that makes as well. Just energy and so on is just so much higher.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's great. You said you're a galvanizer. If you get to do that over and over and over, that's like what fills your cup. And
yeah,
and that's awesome. Just out of curiosity, what was your other genius?
Discernment.
Oh, okay.
Discernment.
Yeah.
But I would have been, and then my two kind of in the middle zone were invention and tenacity. And, it's just like everybody, you could probably make a case. I could probably put those. I mean, there's no clear cut galvanizing is absolutely me, but the other things too. And I are definitely right in there on the invention side too. But what does that say if you put down discernment though? Is there like a narcissistic piece in that you say you have good judgment? So as I've been reading about it, I've been trying to figure that one out.
No, I don't. I'm going to say I don't take it that way. I also have discernment, so maybe it's a little.
Well, then of course, no, it's not.
For me, discernment is good. It doesn't always get the credit because we're not solving the problems through wonder or invention, but somebody needs to be that discerning person to go like, hey, that is a really good solve, or we need to tinker with that a little bit more. I don't think it'll work this way, maybe that way. There needs to be somebody in the room to be able to do that. I actually have a client where they really don't have any discernment on the team, and it's like, oh my gosh, they go in all these different directions because nobody's ever like discerning and saying like, wait a second, that's not a good idea, And so it's kind of initiative after initiative after initiative, and nobody's stopping them to say like, wait a second, we went the opposite way 3 months ago.
Yeah.
So,
well, and it might be the industry we're in. So we're in this, insurance agency brokerage space. And so far I've been doing this with our 6 sales teams. So kind of coming into this thinking about the people that are on these teams are all salesy to an extent. There's, call it 5-6 people on a team. But they also come out of a risk management space. So there's also a little bit of, kind of seeing the glass half full and all the things that could go wrong. What's maybe it's not so surprising, but wonder and invention are extremely low across the board. Maybe we have maybe out of 30 people, 1 or 2 invention types and maybe 1 or 2 wonders. And then at best, it's kind of in the middle. And for most, it's a frustration. So it's like one of those things on my mind as we spend some more time with it. If we are going to have to help and I think infuse some of those inventive things into the teams and a little bit of that wonder. Lots of discernment is strong. And then the rest of the stuff tends to be kind of a variety and blended pretty well across the board. But yeah. Wonder and invention's light.
Okay. Yeah. And is there anybody on your team that has it, or are you seeking that? And this is something that I think teams need to think about too. So it's great. When you don't have that represented on the leadership team, are you finding it, maybe it was outside of your leadership team?
So the leadership team is good, but it's the 6 sales teams that we have.
Okay.
That 5 people per kind of thing on each of those teams. Maybe only 1 out of the 6 has a little bit of invention, and maybe 1 has wonder, and the rest it's like almost a frustration or whatever.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And in some ways it kind of fits with the industry, but also we got, like anything else, we got to keep moving ahead. So it feels like it's one of those, the leadership team is going to have to help bring some of those ideas and things to the individual sales teams, I think, to get that done. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. The next piece, we talked a lot about leadership, and then we took this sidetrack to the 6 geniuses. By the way, you're not getting bonused on throwing out different Pat Lencioni models or books or anything like that. So
I know it. Like I told you, the evangelist in me, I can't help it. So
no, that's great. But the leadership, and you're galvanizing, leading people, and your ownership of that and building followership, as we mentioned, really then leads into you caring a ton about your culture. Yeah. And again, not every leader is like that, Why have you taken that on, and what would be like the ROI of that, do you think?
Yeah, that I need to think on the ROI piece a little bit. In terms of why doing it, it probably wasn't as altruistic 15 years ago.
Right.
It's the need to achieve and accomplish person in me. And listening to my predecessor, like I realized it had to be this way in order to get to the where we wanted to be. So I needed to be that way. And sometimes in life, I think things are good that way. You don't always want to go do something, or you don't always want to do what you know is the right thing, but forcing yourself to do it, and it kind of forces you to become that person, over time. So a couple of things that went into that, and why even the need for it. I'd spent about 6 years out in Arizona as well, and in our industry, there was a lot of national players and other players, and so in the firm I was at, kind of operated on hey, if you don't want to do this, I got a couple of fillies in the stable ready to ride. So, whatever,
Right.
Either you're in or you're out. You'll do what we say. And if you can't keep up on the treadmills, so what? And there was always another filly to plug in from somewhere else. And when I moved back to the Midwest, and we're in kind of joke around and say minor league baseball cities here, and places like, South Bend and Fort Wayne and Kalamazoo, and even Indianapolis to an extent, there aren't other fillies in the stable. And so this was my team and my crew, and had to spend a lot more time developing and getting what we had and making it better and growing our own. So somewhere along the way there, though, I think age and a whole lot of things come into play, and maybe having children, and you start, like, at least I did, start seeing the world a little bit differently. And I also had a lot better, fairly empathetic person always, but I was literally in the shoes. I was in the shoes of, and we have 75% female workforce. And I didn't appreciate what they did every day, coming into work, taking care of our clients, and then, being a spouse, and then being a mom, and all that stuff. And I saw my wife doing it more, and it just had a total different appreciation. And in fact, give our salespeople a bad time, which have tended to be the other way, 75% male. Like, they don't know how great a job they have. Like, look at what, like, most of our people have to go through every day. So when that started taking place, and that just kind of built on itself, and learning and seeing what they went through, and realizing too that, I'm in a 100% people business. It's all we have. And we've got to have the best people. And I really do want them to come out of this having a great life. I've gotten a great life already from it. My future's secure. I know what that looks like, but I want everybody to experience it too. And the deeper I got into that learning and reading and thinking, you start peeling the onion back, you just get all the way to that core of, I don't know how to do it any other way now. It's just part of who we are and how we do things. And it's absolutely the fastest, easiest way to find yourself out of Gibson is violating some of those, core tenets and values that we have, treating people poorly, just no room for it whatsoever. And how much more important that is even than the talent side. And the other thing is, James, long term, it's about the only way, the world's changing so fast. It's moving so fast. It's about the only way to have a competitive advantage anymore. Being a mid-sized independent firm in America here, we got 150 employees. I can't keep up with the spending budgets of all the national brokers all the time doing whatever. But what I can do is field the best team, and we can copy off them in a nanosecond of the tools or resources they think or dream up. None of it's rocket science. We'll do the same thing, but we'll implement it better. We'll do it better. We'll have happier people, happier clients, better retention, all those kind of things. And James, if I switch to the ROI part, and I don't have the solid math behind all this, but I think some of it, though, I can tell you that our client retention is like industry leading, and it was always good. But if I look back on what it was, 10, 12, 15 years ago, it's a lot better. It's incrementally moved up. And so that's an absolute fact. Is cause and effect? Is it because culture's gotten so much better here? I don't know, but it happened at the same time. We've gone through the last 5, 6 quarters, and we use quarterly surveying tool from a company named Amplify, and our score has actually gone up throughout all of COVID, and we're in the top 2% now nationally for their database, and yet we're doing it and living through all of this right now. Coincidence? I don't think so. We've really tried hard to focus on our people. We put a little, and I got this idea from a couple of our outside board members and combined 2 or 3 ideas, which is kind of my normal thing to do, and tweak them a little bit. And we put together something called a Gibson grant, and just thinking about all of our people working from home. We are in the safety management space as well. We have safety engineers, and they're out talking to our clients about ergonomics all day long. And here we had gone, 6 months of this stuff, and our people have to have bad posture at home when they're makeshift desks at the kitchen table and all that. So we put a $600 stipend together for all 150 employees. And then we prearranged about a dozen different things so that everybody could get the thing they wanted most, or maybe the thing they didn't have. So we had a really nice chair. They could get multiple screens at home. They could just a whole host of things like that would make their working space better and improve. And it was just received really, really well. And those are those little things that we've tried to do. And I guess so ROI wise, I guess it seems to be working, but that's not why we're doing it either, though. It's just that, we really just care about everybody, and we need their best from them, and we got to give them our best as well.
Yeah. Well, and when I speak of the ROI, I know you know this, but I really get the feeling that that's a downstream effect of everything you're doing, not the first, reason or motivation for doing it. It's a downstream effect. And you talk about your employee engagement, you talk about your retention of clients, and it seems like all of this is a downstream effect, like I said, of the importance you have and place on leadership and the culture of the company. It's awesome.
Thanks.
And so I don't want you to have to share your core tenets and core purposes or core values. But I want you to talk about how you intentionally hire people around those, and what's the hiring process at Gibson? Because I would bet it's different than other places.
Yeah, James, the hiring process here, we've gotten a lot better at it and are still continuing to tweak it. As we learned along the way and got better about our core values, we'd identified them. We'd gone through a whole process because, they'd kind of look like they were on a dog-eared sheet of paper and kind of faxed and copied a bunch of times and turned sideways. We're going to, redo these. And so we spent a lot of time doing that. And this again goes back, even a decade ago. And when we got done, we had them all rewritten, and now these are our core values. Then we looked at them next to the old ones, and they've kind of been the same ones for a long, long time here. We've been in business actually since 1933. So, and they were so similar. We just had really updated the language around them. But we had realized during challenging times, we had sometimes let those slip a little bit. And I think where we intuitively brought people in that matched the core values in the past, when we, were a little tight, or we had grown a ton and just had to have some people or whatever, we made some hiring choices that doesn't mean they were bad people and not talented, but they didn't really fit. And it took a while to clean all that up. So a few years ago, we got really serious about it and we need to evaluate on that. So we shorten in our lingo, we call them QCons, but quarterly conversations. So we don't have really annual reviews here. We have quarterly check-ins and really to talk about what's working, what's not working, and a quick kind of right person, right seat sort of thing. So, are you emulating our core values, and then do you kind of get and want and have the capacity for the job? And so that was working, then became really great way to people started voluntarily moving on. And some of those, they were tough too. Oh man, really, you're leaving? But thinking about it later, yeah, it was obvious to everybody here, this is how we're going to be running the company, but we still weren't quite getting it on the front end on the hiring side. And so we've created some tools and so on to use. We got more serious about consistently using the same assessments and what those meant. We made sure we had some others involved with the decision with the teams that knew the tests better and could help articulate them and what they were looking for. And we actually have a little thing we call Getting to Know You, and it's real simple. It's a little HTML 5 questions, and in asking these questions, we learn a ton about people because they tell us what they think, and they're all easy to answer. And so how they answer them, and there's no right answer to them, but you can get a real sense for how people share their own stories and how those may or may not fit coming in. So we have like some soft stuff and then some hard stuff on that front end. And then we work through a series of team interviews as well. And I mostly get involved just with like senior executive or salespeople hires. And I realized along the way, we realized that I was a real problem in some of this too, in not hiring the right salespeople, because I like talking to people, and salespeople are naturally wired to say a lot of good things. And although I've got, some, I think, good judgment and can see through a lot of that, I would get into these like just enjoyable conversations, and pretty soon then everybody thinks, this is the 10 commandments and we got to move through. So those candidates didn't get as much scrutiny. And so now we realize that Tim needs to be either on the front end or the back end, but not both. And I can play a really tough role on candidates that come in from other sources and ask really tough questions with salespeople. I've done the job over the years, and I can make it a very challenging interview. I don't enjoy that one as much, but I'm happy to do it. But what we have me doing now most of the time is on the front end, kind of getting people lathered up, excited about Gibson. And I'm straining them and running them through a filter on the front end so that only what I think are the best of the best are coming through. And then I get out of the way, and it's not my choice or my opinion at the end, because I can't do both. It's hard to be on that. But that's an example though of, and it probably happened on some of and the other teams and stuff too, of knowing those roles and having all that. And since then, like our voluntary turnover is just, it's been at an all-time low over the last few years since we've done this. We've had so much better fit hires for us from the sales end of things. And, what I like too is that some of the salespeople that didn't work for us, it's not that they weren't talented. And so I'm left with that too of, man, we disrupted their life. They left a, pretty good situation for hope of a great one, and it didn't work here. And then they had to go back and rebuild it all again. And I don't like doing that to people either, know? So, that process is so important to like get it right on the front end, the back end.
I'm curious. I love the vulnerability there, that like you being overly involved was, not such a great thing. How did that conversation happen? I'm just curious about like potentially an awkward conversation with somebody, maybe in the hiring process, or maybe like an HR manager going like, "Hey, Tim, yeah, if we can get you out of some of this, that would be great." What was that like?
Our sales teams tend to be run by a player coach that's a partner in the firm, and they are less intimidated by me, but still to some degree, as we realize. So when I would see a couple of these people that I thought were just can't miss prospects not working out with us, and I'd have these discussions, and I was kind of strong with them about, hey, did you do everything you could have done? Like, I feel like early on you didn't. And I started getting these, well, I wasn't really even real thrilled about it to begin with, but I knew you were, and you wanted it. And yeah, there were a couple of those things you said they were, but we never really checked on these other things that they weren't. And it turned out they weren't a fit. And so we weren't having success, and wanting to tinker and tweak, and then realizing that, oh man, this comes back on me. And it's good. I'm surrounded by people that know me well enough too, and how to manage me a little bit. And so, they use the right language so I could hear and understand and listen. You're getting this whole thing all lathered up, and everybody's just like super excited. And we didn't do all the homework on that. And And so I just had to kind of throw myself out there and say, hey, I'll play any role you want me to play, including none at all. And no, you do this better. In fact, yeah, I don't like it when you're like picking apart an idea but don't do that either, because you don't actually love to be all negative on stuff all the time. So you're on the front end, go out and find them for us, and then we'll take it from there. And we started doing that. And I, again, got into that. Yeah, I'm capable of doing the tough, hard, negative stuff too, but I just have more fun anyway. So it just became kind of like a double benefit of I just spend more time doing the things I like.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
And James, the second benefit we realized too is like it's kind of lethal from a recruiting standpoint when you get a CEO reaching out directly to a salesperson saying, hey, I want you to come join our team and be a part of it. And I get a lot of people that will take my calls or my text or whatever that wouldn't otherwise respond to somebody, maybe in HR or whatever, but they're curious and they kind of always wanted to meet, so they'll take a meeting. And that's where they make a huge mistake, because we're gonna get them into the system and get them going.
Yeah. So going down that path a little bit, talk to me about like empowering people within the company and letting them make decisions, and then like what's the culture around if people make the wrong decision or it doesn't go the way or there was an opportunity that was missed.
Yeah. So thinking about that empowerment and the mistakes and all that kind of thing. I'm a big, like, if I had my own personal values just of my whole life, I just simply say I'm an attitude and effort person. So somebody can have a really, really long leash, perhaps even too long, if they're coming at it, trying to do their best, giving everything they've got. I appreciate that there's different talents, skills, and levels, and we need everybody. That hasn't always come through to everybody on our team here because of, I'm hard charger, the things you said. I can make my case quick and fast. And our COO that we've had now for about a year and a half here has just been, it's kind of like that. I finally got the right fit for me, and he knows me and knows me well and knew me in multiple lives over the years and is able to kind of help translate Tim to people from time to time and help them understand all that. So we're getting a lot better. I think there's a lot more comfort internally about that I've always said it, but I think they believe it now too, that, hey, just try your best. We're moving fast. I'm not a perfection person. Like, let's keep cranking and moving, and action takes care of a lot. But that was actually a huge missing gap. We got our culture moving in a better spot, but there's still this spot in between where maybe some, ideation, invention, ideas from me that I've just read, studied, copying other people and bring to the team. And then got this culture thing, and it's like, okay, now you guys take this and like make the idea come to life now. And it didn't get done. And one of those pieces that's really made a huge difference in all of this over the last several years is getting like an operating system in place. And, I first met Pat through a guy here in South Bend, Indiana, named Tony Huddy, and Tony runs an executive forums franchise and knew Pat from various things. And Pat came to speak here and all that. And something that Tony is a great mentor, has always said, like, hey, I don't care which peer group you're in. I just want you in one. And I don't care which operating system you use. I just want you in one. And so when I left executive forums and went and joined YPO, Tony was happy for me. And so I think about that with operating systems. I know you guys have one, there's Gazelles, and we've used Traction and EOS. And the key thing there is that we have a system in place of, here are the big goals funneled all the way down to here's the cadence of the weekly leadership team meeting. And that was that final piece I needed to really feel safe and to kind of vacate checking in and checking on everybody. And that system that we now have in place and we're operating throughout the company, if I feel like it, and I just don't anymore, if I feel like it, I can go into the system and kind of see where anything's at and anybody and all that. But it's for them all to do. I mean, we talk about the issues, they get assigned out, people have to-dos they need to get done. And I just know it's happening now. And that's given me a lot of safety. And I think that's something that executives struggle with for a variety of reasons. They can't communicate well enough. They feel guilty talking about it this way, and or their second in command really doesn't understand what their role is. And that is, if you get like a, crazy visionary kind of person like me, focused and in the right spots and not worrying about everything, I mean, everybody's going to do better and have a lot more fun. I'm going to bring more for everybody. All that stuff gets filtered, but just make me feel safe. Help me know that you care almost as much as I do about all this stuff, and that you're on it. And everybody's the accountability is in place. That's all that I ever liked. And that tenacity, skill, like I have a lot of that, but I realize it's not that natural thing I want to do, to go checking in on it, but I will do it myself just because I want to be successful, but it's not because it's natural, that I want to do all the work involved with it. So I really believe that having that system in place has allowed so much better input from so many more people. They're a part of it. They're owning it. They're accountable for it. And we're getting more and better ideas and everything back out of it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I mean, you're right. Having a system that you're following and that you're disciplined with is really important. And there's so many out there, and there's so many that overlap with each other too. I mean, you mentioned the 4 disciplines, Traction, Gazelle. There's a lot of overlap in all of those. And one last topic I'd love to touch on, because I think it's so hard. I'm working with a client right now where it's like painful, and it's, it just is human nature, is around accountability. And you're a galvanizer. You're well liked, probably. I mean, I know a few people who know you. I like you. We all like you. You're a likable guy. Talk to me about like accountability, not through the system, but when you have to have those conversations.
Yeah, James. The system helps a ton, and I prefer it that way. Let the truth will set us all free. Did you get it done this week or didn't you? And don't need to yell and do all those kind of things. But at certain points in time, whether it's your best player on the team or the weakest link, you have to have some of those tough conversations. And I don't know how or where or when it came to me, but it's always been something that's come really, really naturally for me. And I don't mind having them. And if I've realized they go poorly if I haven't put the chips in and built up the relationship. But if I've done those things, I've been able to, over the years, have some really, really difficult conversations that have led more often than not that we've saved somebody or saved a career here versus not. I mean, I tell people I'm that friend that's going to tell you if you have, a booger in your nose. And James, don't worry, you're good right now. But
thank you.
And I want you to do the same for me and help me that way, because that's like the truest form of love, really, of caring. If you really, really care about somebody, you talk to them about what they need to do to be at the level that we expect them, you expect them, I expect them to be, and really what they're capable of. And it's actually part of our theme this year with the company that we're going through is it's actually selfish to not have the right kind of difficult conversation, because you're actually more worried about yourself and how you are going to feel having that than what it means to the other person. And in the Midwest here too, we have a huge, huge struggle with this, because, you're from birth, you're taught to be nice and sweet and kind and all these things. And somewhere along the way, you actually get on the wrong side of integrity, because you think being, mean is wrong. And so you better, and you think telling somebody the truth can feel mean and therefore not going to do it. But truth is, like, the integrity part of it all, that's where it matters. And when you can break through with somebody and they know that you're in their corner, you support them, but it's not enough, or it's not as good as it could be or should be, magic happens. Yeah. I will tell you a little story of involves Arizona too. When I really kind of understood all this for the first time. When my wife and I moved out to Arizona, we moved into a, kind of a starter neighborhood, growing neighborhood. And for the first time in our lives, we're connected with a lot of Californians who had, come over and like, hey man, you do you, I do me. Fences in the backyard are cool, and that's great, and real laid back. And then a lot of East Coasters as well. So for the first time in my life, I was around people from New York and Philadelphia and all these places. And a couple that moved in same time right across the street were from Queens and Long Island. And we got to be terrific friends with him. He was in sales also. And so we just had, disposable income at the time. Probably should have done something different with it, but we wasted it on fun dinners multiple times every week and had a great time with him. And very early on in that, I remember Noel telling me, "That's an effing ugly shirt" at dinner. And to my wife and I at age 25, just made it like shudder. Like, do they hate us? Like, what's and as I got to know Noelle better, and I've used that story a lot. No, she just wanted me to know that she thought my shirt was ugly, and it had absolutely nothing to do with how she felt about me or us or our friendship. And what I came to appreciate then and learned from was, and love that was, I will always know when Noelle is upset with me about something or whatever in our relationship. I don't have to guess because she's just going to tell me. And if she doesn't say anything, then everything's great. And I did get a different shirt too. So.
Exactly. You burned that one. Oh, that's so good. All right. Well, I'm conscious of your time. Thank you so much. I want to ask you because, again, follow you on Twitter and read the blogs. Do you have a favorite leadership quote?
Favorite leadership quote? It's something that's been really near and dear to me. It's more of a whole kind of story. There's a quoter in there, but Jim Collins had mentioned or told that story of the Stockdale paradox with Vice Admiral Stockdale. And I'd always known him just right as that it was a character on Saturday Night Live, he was Ross Perot's vice presidential candidate, running mate, but he had this great story of being a POW in Vietnam and just amazing. But that really kind of it is a real paradox. It's being honest about just how dire and dark some of the situations that you're in are, and never ever giving yourself false hope or thinking, as he said, that the guys that didn't make it were the ones that, hey, by Christmas we're going to be out of here, and they died of a broken heart. But by the same token, never, ever giving up hope that, in the end, you're ultimately going to succeed and make it and survive. So it's kind of this like tough, brutal, like horrible thing to think about. But with COVID and everything, and I look at it in my life like, wow, don't lie to yourself. When it's tough, and do all the things you got to do. But don't ever lose hope that as long as you just keep playing the game and you stay in, you're going to win in the long run, and you're not competing against anybody else. All you got to do is just stay in and keep going. Very long quote, but I've really, really appreciated that.
Actually, it came up in the last podcast that I did with John Brady. So that's funny.
Awesome.
Yeah. So, and it's kind of the difference between having faith and being overly optimistic.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, when they talking about the guys that died of broken heart, it was like, wow. Yeah. Pretty cool. Yeah. How about you, James? Do you have a favorite one?
I think my favorite would be because it's like a team one, and I'm kind of a team guy. It's the strength of the pack is the wolf, and the strength of the wolf is the pack. And where I first came across, it's actually from the Jungle Book, but where I first came across it, was Phil Jackson would share it with his teams. And I just love it, the strength of the pack.
Well, that does sound like kind of like a Zen Master Phil there too, because it's got that accountability and that personal responsibility. Don't forget, you got to be the wolf your team needs you to be.
Yep.
But it's because you're a pack together like that. So, all right. Well, it's another one I'm going to be borrowing. So I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah, no. Hey, Tim, this has been great. And thank you so much for joining. Can you just share with people where they can find you on all the different forums and, platforms?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm really easy to find my Tim Leman, but my last name is Leman, no H in it, but Tim Leman. And I pop up on Twitter pretty quickly and LinkedIn on both of those and do a lot of my stuff there. I wrote a book and published it back in 2015. About all the dumb stuff I did. And a lot of these, if you want to actually read some of the commentary from my reviews, it's in there verbatim. So And it was really just a chance. I wanted to share that not everything's just super linear, and we all can't all be, Pat Lencioni and Jim Collins and all these. Some of us are mortals, and it doesn't happen overnight, and there's a lot of screw ups along the way to get there. And maybe in reading that, somebody won't have to screw up as often as I did. I did take a page out of Pat's book, so to speak, in that it's probably about 120-minute read. So it's not not too terrible that way.
And the name of the book is
Amazon. Yeah, that would be helpful, wouldn't it? It's spelled like revolution. It's meant to be our evolution, turn crisis into clarity and ignite growth. And still out on Amazon. And when the 68-cent royalty check comes, I will thank you all for it. I appreciate it.
Nice. And you've got a blog.
Yeah, and so at Gibson, and our company website's thegibsonedge.com. We run a lot of blogs off there, but Fridays are all for executives and leadership. I write or provide the input once a month on those. And then we have a lot of guest bloggers that plug in on the other, and really have some awesome stuff in there for everyone. So that'll be cool. And then James, we're kicking off a podcast here as well soon called The Edge. So, and really, it's all going to be focused on talking to leaders about their journey and what got them where they were at, and all the rest of that.
All right, I'm sure it'll be awesome. So,
hey, thanks, man.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time, Tim. This has been great. And we'll look forward to connecting with you again.
Sounds good. See you in Arizona sometime.
Sounds good.
Thanks for listening to the Org Health Advantage. Your hosts, Keith and James, are helping leaders change the world of work and invite you to share this podcast with your friends and colleagues. For more resources on building stronger teams and organizational health, check out tablegroup.com.
Produced by Audavita Studios. Connect your voice to the world.